Lucas and Sunny Hill School. My name's Ted, and I'm an engineer at NASA. Today we're at NASA Ames Research Center, which is one of 10 research centers that NASA has spread across the United States. This particular research center, Ames Research Center, is near Mountain View, California. So Lucas sent me a few questions, and we're going to head over to the lab to answer them. But along the way, let's check out a couple things and show you what NASA has to offer. So here at NASA Ames Research Center, we study how airplanes work, we study how rockets work, we study how helicopters work. You can see a few airplanes and helicopters here behind me. These are the actual airplanes that astronauts fly. We also have one of the largest buildings in the world. This is a hangar that we used to keep blimps in a long time ago. So it's pretty fun to get to see all these different things here. So one of the ways we study airplanes here at NASA is we use things called wind tunnels. Wind tunnels are big or small buildings where we use fans to blow air over models of airplanes. That way we can see how the airplane's really going to work without flying it and risking a pilot. Here at NASA Ames Research Center we have the largest wind tunnel in the world. At this wind tunnel we can put full-size airplanes in. You can see behind me, this is the entrance to the wind tunnel. All the air gets sucked in through here. It's also a really good place to play hockey. So that was our quick tour here at NASA Ames. Now we'll go ahead to my lab and I'll try and answer a few of your questions. So before we get to your questions, Lucas, I mentioned earlier that my job here at NASA is an engineer. As an engineer, what I try and do here at work is figure out ways to make things work. That can be figure out ways to make new things that haven't been made before, like new kinds of airplanes. Which is one of the things we do at NASA. Or figure out how to make older things work better or more safe, like the space shuttle. So the first question you asked, which is a great question, was how many stars are there? You might look up at the sky at night and see a lot of stars, but the truth is that there are a lot more stars than you can even see. There's so many stars, in fact, that it's really hard to imagine how many there really are. So the way we'll answer this question is by using numbers. Engineers and scientists use numbers to communicate ideas to each other. So we'll start with a number that we all know, which is 10. 10. We think about what things have 10. First thing I think of is I have 10 fingers. I have 10 toes. So 10 things is about that many, which is something that's pretty easy to think about. Now, what happens if we add a 0 to 10? Now we have 100. Now that's quite a few more things. 100 things would be like 100 pence in a pound. That's 100. So, what if we add one more 0? That's 1,000. That's a lot of things. It's hard to imagine how many things that is, so let's go take a short field trip and I'll show you. So here we are on my favorite beach in Santa Cruz, California, United States. What I really like about the beach, other than the waves and all the dogs, is the sand. I don't know if you've ever looked really closely at the sand, but the sand's actually made up of lots of little tiny things. Things like crushed up rock and little crushed up pieces of shell. They're really, really small, and in fact, if you took a spoonful of sand and counted up every little piece in that spoonful, you would get about 1,000. So that gives you an idea of something that has 1,000. 1,000 pieces of sand in a spoonful. Now if you can imagine counting up all the pieces of sand on this entire beach, you'd get a really big number. And then imagine not just this beach, but every beach on the planet, counting every piece of sand. it's something that is too hard to do, but if you can imagine the number you would get a giant number. And that number is about the same number as the number of stars in the universe. We estimate that there are about the same number of stars in the universe as there is every piece of sand on every beach on the planet. So we haven't counted every single star in the universe. That would take a really long time, just like counting up every little piece of sand on all the beaches in the world. But instead, engineers and scientists are really good at estimating really large numbers by using smaller portions of that large thing. For instance, if I want to know how much sand is in my shoe, I don't need to go and count every little grain of sand, because I know that there are about 1,000 pieces of sand in a spoonful. So if I estimated how many spoonfuls of sand were in my shoe, that would give me a rough estimate of how many grains of sand were in my shoe without me having to count every grain of sand. So estimating is a really important thing in science and engineering. So now that we know that if we counted every single grain of sand on every beach in the world and added them all up, that number would be around the same as the number of stars as there are in the universe. Now we know that's really, really huge. And now we can write down the number for that and understand what that number really represents. And here's the number, in fact. It's so big that I can't even fit it on the board. So the next question Lucas asked was, who got second and third place in the race to the moon? Now you probably know that the United States was the first country to land people on the moon, but you might not know that another country, Russia, or then the Soviet Union, was the first to do a lot of things when it came to space. They launched the first satellite into space, they launched the first animal to space, and they also launched the first man and woman to space. Now the United States did land the first people on the moon, and in fact no other country has made it back to the moon. But Russia, or the Soviet Union, did manage to land a rover on the moon, which was a little automated remote control robot that could drive around on the moon. So I guess I would probably give Russia a second place with regards to the race to the moon. And actually very recently, a country called China has also landed a rover on the moon, which has been driving around. And so then China would have third place. The last question that Lucas asked was, did any animals go to the moon? And the answer is no. No animals went to the moon. But animals have really helped us understand the way space works and how well humans can live in space. In fact, one of the first living things to go into space was a Russian dog named Laika. Laika's now very much a space hero, as she was the first living thing to go into space. And in fact, NASA also launched animals into space. The first primate, a chimpanzee named Ham, was launched to space. But none of them made it to the moon. They all orbited around the Earth. However, the animals really helped us understand whether or not it was even possible for humans to live in space. So they really led the way and showed us that it was possible. Oh. Well, thanks for coming along with me today. It was really nice meeting all of you. And Lucas, I hope I helped to answer some of your questions. They were really good questions. As you can see, I really enjoy working here at NASA. It's really a lot of fun being an engineer. You get to play with great toys all day. Most importantly, you get to learn about the world. It wasn't easy though, getting here. I had to work really hard in school. So remember to work hard in school and listen to your teacher. And also remember that it's very important to get along with everybody in your class, because you all work together like you will when you're growing up. You work together to solve problems. So hopefully one of these days in the future, I'll see you all maybe up in space.